Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to Secret Friends Unite. This is your guide to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra from beautiful Savage, Minnesota. It's house hunting season, folks. We're getting into the basketball season. It's very exciting. All of a sudden, I do have to laugh, though, because one of the classic alternative rock stations on XM is doing March Sadness rather than March Madness. Love it.
All songs by The Cure, I'll bet.
Absolutely,
yes.
absolutely.
And Morrissey, right? Right.
Absolutely. Also joined by Charlie Carden.
What's up? Are we skipping the weather chat? You already said it was March Madness. Yes. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, Todd has moved into a mole hole of some kind. It's very dark where he is because he's moving and his house is torn apart. So, but yeah, no, things are good. Beautiful Sunday. And always ready to rock it on out. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and we are very, very fortunate to be graced by a new secret friend this week. Someone that I actually worked with, about 7 years ago, where I currently work at a certain food making general. And we're pleasantly surprised to have Patrick, Global Marketing Director for Star Wars and Indiana Jones at Hasbro. And Indiana Jones is the part that I think is really exciting because that's been untapped for so many years. So Patrick, thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's fun to be here. It's good to see you again, Todd, after so many years.
It's crazy. It's like the people you know on LinkedIn, you never know. Are like, Patrick's at Hasbro? I do a Geek podcast. This is perfect. So this is going to be a ton of fun. We're going to hear more about the toy industry in general, nothing really specific. So Patrick can kind of answer questions, give us some feedback, some stories potentially that are funny, some anecdotes. And then, but before we do that, Patrick, we always ask for people's geek origins. Just let me know where your background lies and what your love of geek stems from.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's fun to talk about. So certainly as a kid, had, the toys that we all do, right? Like I distinctly remember, obviously work on Star Wars now. I remember my first Star Wars toy that I can remember at least was a Weequay figure that I played with all the time. I was more just based on kind of when I was born. I missed New Hope when it was out in theaters, but was kind of, right in that ripe age of 4 to 5 to 6 for Empire and Return of the Jedi. So played with those toys. I remember back then, you had to kind of wait for movies to be on the TV whenever they were going to be on. So I remember for whatever reason, New Hope was on very rarely, and it was always a treat when it was. But then basically in my childhood, kind of really through books, through publishing is really kind of where I found my inner geek, I guess. So I read a lot of the Star Wars Expanded Universe, True Seppuku, Courtship of Princess Leia, Heir to the Empire. You mentioned Indiana Jones as well. That's awesome. Yeah, I think I could go toe to toe with anyone on like Indiana Jones biography history. I loved in the early '90s the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I don't know if either of you watched it, but I credited it.
My God, yes.
There we go.
I didn't. It's a blind spot for me, so I probably should.
It's amazing.
I will mention this, Patrick. I have a. This is no joke, and this must have been when I was right out of college, so in the late '90s. I have a literal dot matrix printout of Indiana Jones's chronology timeline from his birth date on July 4th, 1899.
There we go.
Yes, in Princeton, New Jersey. You got it.
So awesome. So if I wanted to watch that show, who actually owns it? Is it on Disney Plus?
You have to get DVDs.
It's for sale. It is for sale digitally because it's in my wish list on Vudu. Yeah. Todd, I'll tell you what. I'll make you a deal. I will buy it. Yeah. We will watch a couple of them together. What do you think?
That sounds absolutely perfect. Yeah, because that's one of those things. It's probably a weird licensing thing, I assume, because of the Fox and somebody probably got certain publishing rights and said, what?
Yeah.
So crazy.
It was this great TV show back in the 90s. My wife and I watched through it, a year or two ago when we started, thinking about Indiana Jones. She soldiered through it, which is a good metaphor because it's set, part of it is set in World War I, but I love that there's Indiana Jones book. In publishing, he's got a wife named Deirdre in the 1920s.
Right.
Exactly. From the UK, I think. I haven't read them in a long time, but read those. Yep. Got into fantasy as well. Read, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, Elie Modesset's Saga of Recluse. There's I think it's called the Sword of Truth series, Legend of the Seeker. TV show recently was based on it. So so a lot through books, and then it kind of evolved from there. So that's my origin story.
Woo! That is awesome. Yeah. I mentioned because you picked out my Luke helmet behind me.
Yep.
I don't know if you see the Cobra Commander dome as well, but
very nice.
I am, or rather I was, a pretty avid cosplayer, but my biggest ones, thanks to the dome, is Old Man Indiana Jones.
There you go.
Old Man Han Solo.
Yep.
And not quite that old.
Not quite
more like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skull, oh yeah.
And then Captain Pike from Star Trek, which Star Trek, I do our Star Trek podcast. I'm a huge Star Trek fan.
Very cool.
So when someone else puts out their Indiana Jones light, I'm all, I just got, it was funny, my wife and I were packing away some of the old cosplays just yesterday, and everything got a bin, and now it's in the garage as opposed to being in the house. And I have a brand new, nice leather jacket to wear with my Indiana Jones that I've never worn out. So I've got to. I'm glad that's in a separate bin so I can yank it out and go do it at a hospital visit or something with charity cosplay.
Well, Charlie, he never wore a new jacket. You have to get that thing ran under a car, dusty, ran over by a tank.
That's just the thing, because I bought it from one of these vendors that called it an Indiana Jones jacket. It has nice weathering. The one I had before, it did not. It was junky. This one is beautiful. I will show you. You will see someday. I promise.
I need to get some better indie cosplay. All I have is this hat right here that I keep by my desk. It's not a great cosplay hat. I got it actually in Jordan, Petra, which is of course, the site of the Temple of the Crescent Moon. So they were selling them as these cheap souvenirs. Somewhere on my computer, I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day publicly, but there's a video of me pretending to gallop up to the kingdom of the Temple of the Crescent Moon, firing off all these indie quotes. So I need to get a better cosplay outfit.
I love it. That's
my son was indie for Halloween this last year, so he's way ahead of me. Yep.
Very nice.
Well, I will find a way to share those pictures by hook or by crook.
And it's so funny because we work together, Patrick, at the company, and
I never knew this.
Exactly, it's so funny because typically a lot of people often were scared to show geeky side on their desks and things like that. Now it's more common, and it creates kind of like some common shared experience. I tell people I do a podcast now, and they oh, really? I like that stuff. So it's very cool, and we've had people on actually from General Mills, should I say my company? I'll say my company. I've had people on before. We had one of the R&D folks who was a big geek. Yeah,
we've been doing this show for going on 8 years. I think people probably have figured it out to some regard. But at any rate, I'll do this. I'll move us down. I'll move us down the field post a little bit.
There you go.
Our cover this week. And again, we're on episode 368, if that didn't get mentioned. Todd, you do a really great job plucking from the Avengers, which is a very controversial run that you and KDQ, our other regular host, talked me out of reading, because I was like, I'm going to power through, because I read this back in the early 90s. This is issue 368, which you didn't drop a date on it, but I'm going to say it's from 1993. Where they had a very pointless crossover with the X-Men. So you get Professor X in his pod people chair, super blue furry beast, and you got it, leather jackets on not only Crystal, who is married to Quicksilver, but you've also got scruffy faced Black Knight with his lightsaber. Delightful. What a terrible, terrible, terrible run. Thank you for talking me out of reading it. The Reckoning had to do... you know what? I actually did read this one maybe 6 months ago. Still no idea. It is that insignificant that I don't know the story. That's my
Patrick, when you look at this cover, anything stand out to you?
So it's interesting. So I kind of shared my origin story. I'm sure you noticed no comic books in there. I never got into comics. My older brother he's got boxes and boxes of them. He's a big Star Wars toy fan as well. When he found out I was coming to Hasbro, his jaw dropped. But yeah. So I can't speak intelligently on this. Obviously, I do love the lightsaber there. Love seeing that across media. My wife and I watched Free Guy a couple months ago and loved without giving away any spoilers, loved kind of the ending of that. But what I will say is we did just also watch through the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe a couple months ago, just kind of, soup to nuts to catch all the little Easter eggs. So do love the Avengers. Love seeing it.
Yeah, the guy on the right, that's the Black Knight, who is Kit Harington. The laser sword's a weird one because that was a late edition. It should be like a what was it? The ebony blade. The ebony blade. Yeah, which basically I guess it feeds off of like the life force of the user. So that's why you hear it in Eternals. So if you watch Eternals, that's what that's going towards. Yep.
And it was cursed. If he killed somebody with it, he became wrapped in an ebony cocoon or whatever. And so he had this lightsaber for a little while. I don't know why. I don't know when it went away. It's just all very 90s.
That's awesome. Yep. I do know that character a little bit. We went we go to conventions, obviously, San Diego, Comic-Con, Star Wars Celebration. We started going internationally a few years ago. Our first one at London Comic-Con, my buddy on the Marvel team, that was one of the reveals, obviously, because of the significance in the UK. So
nice.
I do recognize him a little bit.
Totally awesome. Good deal. All right. Cool. Well, with that, Todd and Patrick, it is time for us to move on down to the somewhat skeevy neighborhood down in Hollywood and Vine to connect with our senior citizen, our favorite news correspondent. That would be Madam Webb with her rumors and news. So let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Madam Webb, don't worry. Patrick is here. I don't think he's taking resumes at this point. I don't think Patrick has room for a 93-year-old intern at Hasbro. So calm your jets.
Maybe in the future.
I would say the insuring her alone would probably be the big holdback.
So I believe, Patrick, your number is 555-555-5555.
Right.
That's your direct line.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Direct line, Madam Webb, give it a call.
There we
go. Excellent. Well, this week, Madam Webb brings us some 5 news stories. Some are going to be interesting. Some are going to be a little weird. The first one is a delight to me, but may have no interest to anyone else. And that is the fact that Rob Zombie, of all people, is bringing back the Munsters. He is going to be doing a pilot, and he is a huge Munsters fan. He loves it to pieces. He's been on Howard Stern. They talked about this, and the fact that he's getting to do it has been a dream of his. Obviously, what Rob Zombie has done has been some, iconic, like that 90s Dracula music, plus some really horrific and gross horror films.
Big time. We saw one of them was at the House of 1,000 Corpse Waxes. I mean, we watched one of them, and it was like, I've got friends who I've got a very good friend of mine. She's an actress on the side and does haunted houses every haunted house season. And that is the Bible to those people, that guy's stuff. They just absolutely love it. But I'm just like, that's just not for me. But who didn't love the Munsters? You had, Fred Gwynn. What was the other big show he was in?
He was in Pet Sematary. He was killed in that.
He was in Pet Sematary, and then he was the judge in My Cousin Vinny. That's what I can think of.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And Car 50 was it Car 54? He was in like an old sitcom back in the day. Yeah. So this is coming back. It's reimagining, but it's going to be lighter fare. The Munsters were never like dark and dreary. They're always it was essentially like the Honeymooners, but they were monsters. Kind of like the Flintstones. Goofy, not like the Addams Family. The Addams Family was always a little very dark. So this is coming back, and the cool part about this is the cast looks pretty good, but my favorite part of the casting is they are bringing in Cassandra Peterson, aka Elvira,
ageless woman, ageless.
She's just one of my favorite icons. We have throughout time. I mean, she's wonderful. I just love her and just her sense of humor and her agelessness, and just she is just fantastic. Well, she's going to be cast in this, but she's being cast in like an exact opposite. She's basically going to be put as almost like she's going to be a real estate agent. So she's going to be spot on, square. Something like it's like a twist on reality where the Munsters are the weirdos and she is not. So I love this casting, and I hope it does. I'm really curious to see where this is going to be shown, and I hope it's good, because it could be horrible. They did do a Monsters reimagining in like late 2010. Well, maybe it's early 2010s, somewhere around there. It was only got a pilot, and it had Eddie Izzard as Grandpa Munster, it had Jerry O'Connell as Herman, but it was more of it was like a straight take. It wasn't trying to do them oddly, but Grandpa Munster was more like a mad scientist, and he brought back Jerry O'Connell back to life. So he kind of was a Frankenstein monster, but he didn't have the big head or anything. So
gotcha.
No idea.
The pilot's really good. It's out there. I think it's on ABC. You can probably catch it. But I enjoyed it for what it was. Yeah. But I mean, so this will be. We haven't seen much from Elvira in regards on the stream since 2014. She did a special in 2021. She's been a host on things, but I will be very excited for this if it actually happens.
Yeah, that Munsters that you mentioned with Jerry had way over my head. I don't. And you said that was network. That was an ABC.
Yeah, they released the pilot, and that was it, which was an odd move.
A pilot.
Because,
okay, that's
weird.
Like
it was called Mockingbird Lane, is what it was called. So
that reminds me of another show. I feel like maybe Jiro O'Connell wasn't it My Secret Identity? It was one or two episodes, and then absolutely whacked. Just like, wow, this wasn't even good enough to be like 2 episodes in 1 week, when they're like, nope. And now, in this environment that we live in with streaming platforms, whatever it is, different stuff can see different life, because they're not so dependent on advertisers going and saying, it's not the end all be all, even though we talked even in our last episode about Netflix and other services moving to a ad supported platform because they want those ad dollars, because they're still so, those sweet ad dollars, they're still so juicy. They still want them. What can I say?
Oh, great. Another platform that I have to worry about having ads on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my goodness. Well, I'll take this next one, obviously, since this is all me. So we did get pictures this week of, and it's funny, we recorded Code 47 a couple of days ago. It'll be out the Monday of the week that you're listening to this. But Katie and I kind of split this one up and down. But we have now our third, or rather fourth, incarnation of an actor playing James T. Kirk. Who was the second? Anybody? Todd?
It's a nugget. I don't know.
It's a nugget. No, the final episode of the original series, there was a spurned lover of Captain Kirk that stole his body, and they switched personalities. His personality went into her body, therefore making her James T. Kirk.
That's so weird. So it was like one of those bad sitcoms where they swap. Yeah, that's
it was, right. And it was the unintentional last episode of the series, because it was canceled for the third season in a row, and then it was gone. But anyway, actor Paul Wesley, shut up Wesley, who was most famous for The Vampire Diaries, has been caught in Toronto, where Star Trek: Strange New Worlds films. We're getting the first season at the end of May. Season 2 is filming, which means anything that is being filmed here, we're going to see obviously next year, as a Starfleet officer. Now, we know the series is set prior to the time that he takes the center seat of the Enterprise. And it's also been confirmed in season 2 that Anson Mount is continuing to star as Captain Pike. So one might lead one to believe that James Kirk here, who's in this photograph, is very oddly wearing an Enterprise Delta chevron, which he wouldn't have unless he was the captain. Back in those days, every Starfleet ship had a different symbol. So that, except for Discovery, came along and screwed that up. But we don't need to talk about that. And the stripes on his wrist show that he is a captain. So not a great way to explain that away.
How long was he a captain? I mean, was he? He's pretty young. I mean, was he a captain really young?
He is pretty young. Not like it was in the JJ movies where he was a captain at like 17 or whatever the hell it was. He rose through the ranks pretty quickly. I believe it's established that he commanded a smaller vessel prior to coming to the Enterprise. But, potentially what this sets up is how he comes to become the captain of the Enterprise, which we really don't know. And his Prime Universe meeting of Spock for the first time has also never been documented. So this could lead to all this. My gut feeling tells me that this will be a recurring role or potentially a cameo, but hopefully not the focus of what the main thrust of the season might be, although it has been kind of defined that Strange New Worlds will mirror more of a Planet of the Week, Disaster of the Week kind of take, which the other shows are not doing right now. So it's good to have that change. But I don't see the need myself personally of having Kirk take over the show when I already, and where the show is really supposed to be about Pike, Spock, and number 1. So hopefully that part of it is going to be consistent. But this should be interesting. I think he fits the part. Not extremely familiar with his work, but again, he's got the look. Dare I might say even more so than Chris Pine. Sorry, Chris Pine. I like you, but you were just never really Kirk to me. I'm sorry. This dude gives me a better vibe. That's where I'm coming from.
I just hope he's got some rad kung fu skills.
Oh, Kirk Fu. Everybody was Kirk Fu fighting. I know. Very dated song. I'm sorry.
Patrick, any interest in Star Trek? Is that something that's in your periphery?
A little bit. So I've seen kind of all the movies. I was going to ask. I didn't want to betray my non-Star Trek cred, but since you flipped it to me, is the show in the original timeline or is it in the alternate timeline? Okay.
Yes. Star Trek Discovery, which is a show that's been just wrapped up its 4th season, spent its first 2 seasons taking place about 7-8 years before the original series.
Okay.
The second season of that introduced the Enterprise pre-Kirk with Captain Pike, played by Anson Mount, and a young Lieutenant Spock, played by Ethan Peck, who was the foster brother of the main character of Star Trek Discovery, Michael Burnham or Sonequa Martin Green. At the end of that season, Discovery departed for parts unknown, leaving behind all the characters from the Enterprise in that time frame. And then it was announced that they were going to have their own show, which is going to come on here in a couple of months.
That's cool. No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I've enjoyed the movies. It's not kind of my focus like Star Wars, but I will check out the show and see what it's all about.
Awesome. Cool.
Yep. So the good news is the good news is now you don't have to worry about the cheesy old special effects, bad acting and stuff like that. You can kind of jump on and get the feel what they wanted, but in a very modern sense. So Discovery, I'm less of a Trek fan than Charlie is, but I still I watched enough to make me dangerous, and I really liked what they've done with all of the new shows and picking up shows that have existed and adding to them in modern filmmaking and modern storytelling. So if you've been interested, there's a lot of interesting ways, and especially there's a show that your kids might be interested. It's called Prodigy, and it's on Nickelodeon, and it's a very cool, unique look for kids. It's really well animated, and it's a lot of fun, and it's on Paramount Plus or Nickelodeon, depending on where you get your stuff.
Interesting. Is that Star Trek's first foray into animated kids entertainment?
It's its third. There was a Star Trek animated series in the 1970s. That's what kind of kept things alive when Star Trek became popular in syndication. This was the way they brought it back. Lasted a season and a half, which obviously meant it wasn't very popular. About 2 years ago, a satirical Rick and Morty style, because it was produced by Mike McMahon, the guy who created Rick and Morty, called Star Trek Lower Decks, came out. It completed its 2nd season, with its 3rd season about to drop this summer. Very satirical and fun. We're actually talking about it.
Not for kids.
Again, not for kids. We're talking about it again on our next episode of Code 47 with my partner, Katie. Her idea was to go through it because in reviewing it the first time around, I had kind of a negative slant because it's a little raunchy, unfortunately. This is Star Trek's first take squarely aimed at kids.
That's cool.
And I enjoyed it very much. That show did 2 quarter seasons, if that makes sense, earlier this year, and they're coming back for another at least quarter or full half season later this year. So they split stuff up so that, frankly, there's always something on, but they keep changing it up, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, it's equivalent to a Rebels or Clone Wars, that style that's for all ages, but definitely it's giving an introduction to Star Trek that a lot of people have never had, which is, I think, a great move to get younger viewers into Star Trek.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got into it again, my brothers and I, when we were younger, with Next Generation, obviously. There was, I'm sure there were a few years when I was young where I wasn't even aware there was a show from the couple decades past. So big, Picard, Worf, that whole crew.
Oh, yes. Riker is my guy you can't see, but photograph of Jonathan Frakes, my wife, and myself right there, and hoping to actually see him again in a con later this year. So we shall see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We did also get into Gargoyles. I don't know if you watched Gargoyles.
Oh, Gargoyles.
We thought it was like the Next Generation alumni. Right. They just all went over there.
You're right.
Crazy. Yeah, Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, I think, as well. Yep. That was crazy.
And Michael Dorn is in it too. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
That's a group of actors that in the last 35 years has just stayed very closely knit, and so they do a lot of projects together. For that reason. So
that's awesome.
Anyway, all right.
I was going to say, and Patrick, on that Gargoyles, now Hasbro, please get the license. But they did bring out a recent line of figures from another competitor. But it is fantastic. The line is fantastic. I love it. So I picked up one of those. Somehow I got a second one. I don't know how that happened. So, if you live next door to me, I would say, here you go. But you're far away. It would probably get damaged to shipping. Oh, well. Very, very cool. And that is all on Disney Plus, I believe, as well.
I got to go rewatch it. I think that was the only animated show from my youth that was so intricate. It had to have a previously on.
Oh yeah, it had an ongoing storyline.
All the
it was very cool.
Shakespeare stuff and they were traveling through time. It's very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. All right, next story. We are kicking it off with a trailer for Ms. Marvel has launched. This is the next big show that's going to be launching on Disney Plus following Moon Knight. This is coming out in June. we got our first look at this, and this is doing some unique things. So Miss Marvel is a character that was introduced in 2013, a Muslim teen who was an Inhuman, had an Inhuman gene. The Terrigen Mists transformed her, gave her ability to be stretchy. They call it embiggening. So she gets big, she stretches, kind of like Mr. Fantastic. And she essentially has become a member of a junior team called the Champions. It's kind of like that next generation of Marvel heroes, along with Miles Morales and a few others along the way. Kate Bishop is one of those. Well, this show is coming out. And because of that, they are taking some turns based on the trailer. She will no longer be an Inhuman. Her abilities are now coming from a set of bands, which some people have said maybe are the, I believe, the Nega bands, which would power Quasar.
Yes, I was going to say Quasar. Very good catch. Exactly.
It's another cosmic character, which I think links her to Captain Marvel and some other things. And it gives her the power of similar to Green Lantern, like creating basically constructs, like big fists, like adding things so she can walk on the ground, do things like that. So it's changing up the character, but not really changing her true story, which is about her being a teen, idolizing heroes, and finally becoming one. And this, when I looked at this trailer, it truly feels like the first young Marvel show versus it's focused on adults, which I really like, because even though with Spider-Man we got a young hero, essentially he was just cast in the world of adults, and we got very little with him. So this is more of that kind of story. So I'm excited about this, especially the way they're playing with some of the mechanics of it almost feels like an ABC family show, where there's some things they play around with, like mechanics, they play with the medium a little bit more. But I have been pleasantly surprised with what I saw. Some people are not unhappy because of some of the changes, but I think it's cool. So Patrick, what did you think of the trailer?
I think it looked awesome. You mentioned this up front. I think it's great that they're expanding the universe and kind of having the show that's more geared towards a younger audience. I also do I feel passionately, and I think it's great kind of the inclusion that we're seeing in Marvel, other properties. It's great that kind of young girls can see this role model that they can live up to and see themselves in it. I mentioned earlier, my wife and I watched through the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, including the shows. Have loved the Disney Plus shows so far. Thought Loki was amazing. My favorite. WandaVision next. Eager to see Moon Knight and then this one and see him keep going.
Do your kids watch some of these? I know you have younger kids, but I mean, are they able to watch these? Or are they too young?
Yeah, there's 2 under 3. So they love Sesame Street. They've gotten into Daniel Tiger. I'm excited to get them into Spidey and His Amazing Friends and maybe this Star Trek show.
Totally.
Yeah, the 1-year-old especially, her attention span is pretty short. So we're easing them in.
Good.
Have they seen the Muppet Show episode with Star Wars with Mark Hamill?
The Muppets or the Muppet Babies?
No, the Muppet Show. So the regular Muppet Show episode.
I don't remember that one. I do remember Muppet Babies, though. I'll have to check that out.
It's fantastic. Mark Hamill's on it. It's 1978. Your kids will love it because it's just goofy. They show up on Pigs in Space. Yeah. It's awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, but I remember the Muppet Babies one too, where they did the Star Wars one.
We are reading some of the little golden books. They have these little golden books. There's an I am a Jedi, I am a droid, and then there's the saga. I did have to vet them out though, because I'm trying to preserve the reveal at the end of episode 5, so that when they see it for the first time. So I paged through, and basically we're able to read The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and A New Hope, because those are the only ones that don't.
So that's how it really started.
Yeah. So my son thinks that that's the entire world of Star Wars. His mind's going to be blown someday, and it's going to be awesome.
Nice, very cool. Fairly, Miss Marvel, any thoughts?
I agree with you. It's nice that, like you said, kind of with Prodigy, to turn the lens to something, in this case, that's very specifically geared towards an intended teenage audience. And that's a way to grow, like I need to tell you guys, brand loyalty. It's a way to create brand loyalty, because you have to, I don't want to use Philip Morris as an example, start them young, but you understand where they're coming from. It's, all branding in one way or the other. I've worked in marketing too for a long time as well, is habitual. It's about getting someone in a pattern of doing something like, I'm seeing this thing, this Marvel thing speaks to me, yada, yada, yada. Now I'm older, now this next thing clicks with me, and so on and so forth. The same way that, that Star Trek is doing it now. So I like it. I'll watch it. I'm sure I won't engage with it. I watched the Freeform show, or was it Cloak and Dagger, and the what was the other one, Todd? The Runaways. I watched. Yeah, I mean, I watched those too. Cloak and Dagger was a tough watch. It was pretty gritty.
It was a WB CW type show with
exactly.
Heroes,
So it was like Archie or one of those shows. But this seems like and again the MCU is that's the real Marvel. Rather would it be? What is it? If you watch the what was it, the PG cut of Deadpool 2, where you had Fred Savage retelling the story to Deadpool.
Yes.
He said, "And you were in a Marvel movie. It's like you're in Marvel, but it sucks." That's kind of what these feel. So they're kind of like what some of those other shows felt like. So this is awesome. I'm fired up for this. And did we get a date? This is late summer,
it's
fall.
June 3rd, I believe. June 3rd.
Oh boy, okay.
Yeah, so it's right after Moon Knight. Well, yeah, there's a gap between Moon Knight and this, but still, once again, it's kind of balancing that the Moon Knight is definitely not for kids. To this is a little bit more all ages. And the cool part about this too, I mean, I think it can't be underscored. Marvel's got such a legacy now that it's like you don't want to have to tell someone, "Oh, just watch 33 films."
Right.
And you'll be caught up. This is like getting a character from start that's not really engaged with everything else. So it's not like you have to have a ton of foreknowledge to enjoy it. This might be somebody's first Marvel show, and they could be so excited because the other Marvel stuff didn't appeal to them. But now it's like it's a young teenage girl. I'm a young teenage girl, or I'm a teen kid, or I'm interested in seeing myself represented. You said on screen, I'm a Muslim person. I'm 55 years old. And I would have loved this as a kid. So it's like all of these things are good to, once again, introduce people to see a cool genre. And it may be the only thing they love about Marvel, but that's good enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure enough. I like it. Well, cool.
Right.
June 3rd it is. All right. What do we got? Oh, the prodigal son returns.
Yes. Almost like a couple decades late. But yeah, Charlie, we talked about the Super Bowl where Mike Myers came back as Dr. Evil, basically doing the Austin Powers thing. And we thought, is that going to be kind of like just a teaser to see if Austin Powers could truly come back? And surprisingly enough, it was just to get Mike Myers back on the screen, people remembering him, to make a new Marvel series, which I thought was interesting. I didn't realize this was not a movie, but it's a 6-episode series. It's called The Pentaveret.
And for those of you, long movie.
Yeah, long movie in 6 parts. For those of you who go back to the beginning of Mike Myers' career post SNL, So I Married an Axe Murderer was his first movie appearance, and he talked about his dad, who was an old Scottish guy who he played.
Oh, that's right.
Talked about the Pentaveret. They're a group of people who are, trying to stand
the largest landowners in the world. The king, the queen, blah blah blah. Yeah, that was when he was still on SNL. That was like
the colonel with his weedy eyes.
Yeah, I want your chicken. Oh my god,
living in the meadows, and essentially that's what this is. It's a series about apparently this group of people, this Pentaveret, who have tried to save the world in secret throughout time. And this is going to be very fun because the cast is pretty interesting. We've got I'm trying to look at the cast listed somewhere.
You got Keegan-Michael Key, Lydia West, and Debbie Mazar. I recognize her name because she's been around forever. But yeah, Keegan-Michael Key, I enjoy his.
Jeremy Irons is the narrator.
Ken Young, Richard McCabe. Let's see the other Jennifer Saunders.
Yep.
Yeah, and but that's about. Well, let's see here. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, and Jeremy Irons, you got, and as the narrator, great voice. Yeah, this should be a hoot. Again, Mike Myers' career has famously been in the toilet since. What was it? The Love Guru. The mid 2000s. Good lord, yeah, just directly down the tubes. But I'm sure he's not starving. So nice to see him come back in something that is a creative endeavor where he tries to, Dr. Dolittle / what the hell am I? The absent-minded professor. The Nutty Professor. He's trying to Nutty Professor.
The Eddie Murphy style of being 8 characters. He's going to be 6. Right. Mike Myers will be 6 characters in this, but hopefully it's done well. It's long form. Typically, Austin Powers movies are 2 hours long, so it's like you get enough and you move on. 6 episodes of this might be a little too far apart, but I don't know. I mean, I'm looking for something funny, and Mike Myers, I always loved him, and hopefully he's coming back in a new way. But Patrick, I mean, What do you think of this?
Yeah, I should watch. I should, I'm getting all of my geek news here. I hadn't heard about this. This sounds awesome. Loved Mike Myers back in the day as well. I can't believe it's been 25 years since Austin Powers, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
97. Yeah,
yep,
like
sure
that.
Was.
That makes me feel old like nothing else does.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, big fan. Love his work. This sounds like an awesome combination. Great cast. Love Keegan Michael Keys. Love him in everything he does. So I'll definitely check it out.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's
love
gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
I love it.
So,
do we have a date on this one, or is it floating?
Good question. They've got the trailer out. Should be really. Oh, let's see. Oh, it's so hard to find like the important information here.
May 5. May 5.
May 5th. So about less than 2 months away. So check it out. And they're trying to earn our Netflix increase.
Right. Exactly. Earn it. Make it work.
Yes.
Good deal.
Excellent.
Well, that's about the size of that. So now it's time for me to get on the app, get us an Uber. We're going down Scugtown. That's right. I'm talking about our favorite geek establishment with the dankest corners, the most liquored down beer, and the grossest pretzels in all of the universe. That'd be the Geek Easy. So let's go.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. Obviously, I'm actually sitting in Moe's Tavern. Yeah. So did you guys get the memo? That's where we're going?
Bo's Cavern?
That's true. Yes, great mark.
There.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, sounds great.
Yes. So, Patrick, what have you been, anything that's exciting that you've been reading or watching?
Yeah, so, not a ton of time to read, but watching for sure. I mentioned in the upfront, I loved reading The Wheel of Time when I grew up, and so wife and I just finished watching through the Amazon Prime Wheel of Time show. I don't know if you guys checked that out, but
I watched the first episode. It got kind of a mixed review.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I thought it picked up. It's definitely like everything. There's definitely changes from the books, but when you've got, I think it was like 14 books long, right? Each of them about 1,000 pages. Like you're gonna have to make some changes, but. I thought it was great. Mostly new cast. Rosamund Pike, obviously, as Moraine. So yeah, enjoyed it, and just that was my favorite series growing up. Favorite fantasy series. I mentioned some of the others, but that was like the one I loved the most. So had always dreamed of seeing a movie series or more likely a TV show about that. Legend of the Seeker obviously came like 10, 15 years ago, based on the Sword of Truth. Really like that, but yeah, it was great seeing it on screen. Great seeing the characters and. Excited to see where it goes. I think I read that season 2 is going to combine elements of I think it's The Great Hunt is the second book, and then The Dragon Reborn is the third book. So yeah, eager to see when that comes out. I think I read it's going to be later this year after their Lord of the Rings show. I think they're going to try to counter program them. So yeah, I would recommend it.
Got it. And I know Brendan Sanderson picked up that series, I believe, right? When Robert Jordan passed away, right?
Robert Jordan passed, but fortunately he had left very detailed notes. So yeah, basically Brandon was able to complete it from the plot that Robert Jordan had outlined, but obviously filling in his own text. And it was pretty good. Maybe
they should get him to finish the Game of Thrones series.
I was just going to say, fortunately, the books were finished before the television show, so there's not going to be any. I think it was seasons 6 on.
6.5, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lack of source material kind of creates some gaps. Yeah.
I've actually said 2019 was a fascinating year because it saw the end of that phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the end of the Skywalker saga, the end of Game of Thrones. It was just this weird year that saw the end of these 3 pop culture franchises, and some went well and some didn't.
And then we got 2020.
I know, right? Then it all went downhill in a big way. So
exactly.
Yeah, would recommend that.
Excellent. Anything else?
Obviously watching we watched Book of Boba Fett, ended about a month ago. Loved that. It was very interesting show, very cool. But obviously loved kind of fleshing out the story of Boba Fett, learn a little more about Mandalorian and Grogu, and we'll see where they go. So I've watched all those Disney Plus shows. Yeah, that's about it. Very,
very cool. Well, I just finished watching. I started last night, had to turn it off because it's getting late at night. The Kingsman it's on HBO Max, and I believe it's also on Hulu right now. So this is a series that I've really enjoyed. Matthew Vaughn, it's his baby. Matthew Vaughn has done a lot of cool movies. He's a very cool, visually interesting director. I really love when he manages fights or different things. And this is essentially, he did the first two Kingsman's movies. Then he decided to do an origin story about how this group actually began. 100% different cast. You've got Ray Fiennes as essentially Lord Oxford, or Duke, Lord Oxford of he's a Duke. He essentially was a member of the British Army. Things changed and he became a pacifist. His life changed, and essentially he has to get brought back in the middle of World War I. And it's really interesting to see how this group is formed. I really enjoyed this a lot. It's kind of like half, like almost like a World War I movie, and then half is like a kind of goofy retelling of history through a spy agency. So there are definitely leaps of faith in playing with reality. Rasputin's in this. You get like this cabal that has all of these people playing with the strings of history and manipulating them in a really unique way that was really fun. It's R-rated, so definitely be ready for that, because there's some scenes with Rasputin, man. Woo! I loved Rasputin in this, though. He was hilarious. I mean, when his fighting, he essentially was doing like ballet fighting, like the Bolshoi ballet, playing with it, and just he was a really cool character. But I really liked it. Ray Fiennes actually did a really great job as an action hero. I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It's like I said, it's kind of weirdly balanced because its tone leads you to one place and then it takes you another place. So ultimately, the first half feels a little bit more stodgy. The second half, though, they're all in on the fun, the crazy action, the leaps of faith, the weird playing with history. It's really enjoyable. So I really like this. Some people didn't, but I thought it was really, really fun. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what they do next. I think there's going to be a third, like, current history Kingsman, but what they do at the end, there's a stinger at the end. So just fast forward a couple minutes, and I think you'll enjoy it. Plus, they did a really weird, like they did like the James Bond theme song thing, which I thought was weird too, because my son and I were like, are they doing like a pop song, but now it's got rap? I mean, I thought they were going to do the James Bond like theme song thing, but they did something different. So I'll give them credit for trying, but that's not for everybody. But still, a lot of fun if you enjoy kind of that goofy James Bond feel we haven't gotten because James Bond went serious. So I'd say check it out.
Cool.
Rock in with Doc in. Yeah, I've been wondering about that one myself. But yeah, a couple of quick hits for me. I did a show, a comic, and a movie, which is rare. The comic part in particular.
The trifecta.
The trifecta. Wrapping up Discovery Season 4, which I was mentioning a little while ago. Ty, where are you at with Discovery? Have you made it past the halfway mark?
I haven't moved forward. My lack of exercise, because I have no elliptical now, has kind of gotten in the way of me watching things very dedicated. So plus I've been really busy with moving. So nothing there. I think I have like 6 episodes left.
Right.
Is it good? Does it make the landing, Charlie?
Does it make and or stick the landing? I never understood the expression "stick the landing." That's good, right?
Plane, yeah, flying a plane, stick the landing, yeah.
Stick the landing, very good. Yeah, I would say that yes, they did. Both this season and last season. And again, we talked about it extensively on Code, which will be out when you're listening to this. My partner Katie made the great point that both seasons 3 and now season 4 gave you a season finale that could be a series finale, because it really ties up a bow, and it really does. And I think that whereas seasons 1 and season 2, not so much. It left it's cliffhanger. Seasons 1's cliffhanger was a little lame, and then seasons 2 was really pivotal, and it transitioned the series into the now second half of it. But yeah, the season 4 wrap up where our crew comes to face with the 10C, which is the alien race that's driving the season. Todd, I don't know how much you know about them, seeing where you're at right now, but
nothing at all.
We get we get a very satisfactory conclusion. We also get a guest star that has absolutely sent the internet and has brought every crazy whacknut bigot jerk out of the woodwork. You get politician Stacey Abrams as the president of the United Earth, which was it was spectacular.
Did they think it was really her? Like she's in the future?
Yes, exactly. They're like, you know who was the first person who tweeted about it? Ted Cruz tweeted about it being nasty. Just wow. Unbelievable.
Does he even watch Star Trek anyways?
No,
I don't think he does.
That's just the thing. And so, I've seen all the memes out there. Star Trek, upsetting bigots since September 8th of 1966. Star Trek has always been political, deal with it. But anyway, it was a good finale. So Todd, when you catch up watching that in about 3 years, we can talk about it a little bit more in depth. Oh, oops, I spiked. Second up, yes, I did read a comic, which I do less than I should. I'm trying to work on that. But Todd, you and I have talked about these follow-on series that DC does. There's Wonder Woman 78, which I know, or 70, 79, 78, I think. There's Superman 78, which I've read most of, and I started what I think is the final issue. But I read the first issue. I did a Todd comic on this one, Batman 1989, which launches into, and it's a little fuzzy when it would take place, because the Bruce Wayne that you see in it, he's great. The Temples, which Michael Keaton's Batman never really was, at least not. He kind of looks a lot more like Reed Richards than Michael Keaton in this. But you do have a black Harvey Dent, a la Billy D. Williams from the first film, who you never, but he somehow became Tommy Lee Jones later on. Not really commenting on that one. And Todd, you've read this as well, because you were the one who tipped me off.
Yeah, I read it back in the. Yeah, I love it. They nail the art. They nail the appearances of everyone, and it's essentially what would have happened if we got more content from the Batman Tim Burton era, which we never got.
Right. And so, I'm trying to figure out if this straddled the line of just being, Batman 89 and then Batman Returns.
I think it's Batman post Batman Returns.
Oh, very good. Okay, gotcha.
But it's in the 89 universe. Yeah.
Right. So this is Batman, still in the early 90s. So you tack a couple of years on there, but it's not, he doesn't become Val Kilmer. So anyway, I enjoyed it. And I'll definitely go on to read more of it. So I really dug that. Todd, did you read the whole series?
No, I only read issue 1, so I have more to read. And if it's caught up, I can read it on DC Universe Infinite.
Correct. Probably so. And then lastly, and it's funny because we were talking about this, we were driving to the movie theater. We have that premier VIP subscription to the local theater chain, the Celebration Cinemas, which we've just not used. I have a very busy new job. I'm traveling a lot. And overall, it just doesn't seem like there's been a ton to see at the movie theaters. It's the first quarter of the year. Things can be kind of slow. I guess that makes sense. But one movie which has this crazy staying power, because I think, and I'd have to scroll back and look, I feel like this movie came out in December or maybe mid-January, would be Paul W.S. Anderson's Licorice Pizza, which is a semi-autobiographical turn of the director's life, plus a friend of his who is the main character, played by the son of the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, which April had to look up as we were driving home, which it's a dead ringer. If you look at this kid, he really looks like Philip Seymour Hoffman. But it also starred Alana Haim, and her two sisters, who are part of the LA rock group Haim. They had a hit number. They had a song a number of years back.
Funny story about Haim, Charlie. I cannot stand watching Haim because the faces she makes when she performs, it's just like it doesn't look natural. It's very weird.
Well, the Haim is not a she; it's a they. They're three sisters.
It's sisters, but there's one of them. I don't know if it's the guitarist or lead singer.
The lead singer. Well, all sisters were in the film. One of them, Alana, was the female lead, and it was an autobiographical turn of what life was like for Paul W.S. Thompson and his. I just screwed up his name. Anderson. Paul W.S. Anderson, I think, is the director's name. Now I'm losing it. And his buddy, who was essentially played by Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, and then the Haynes sisters, and kind of their roundabout. Great film, a little over 2 hours. Probably could have been trimmed by a third, because they just kept getting into shenanigans. Like, now we're doing this thing, and they moved on to the next one. Great cameo roles. Singer John Waite had a cameo. Sean Penn had a cameo. Yeah, Tom Waite.
Where's he been? Oh, Tom Waite. I think
not Tom Jones.
Waite. Not I'll be missing you, John Waite. No, John Waite. Yeah. I'll be missing you. I haven't heard him in years.
John Waite with an E. And then Bradley Cooper had a fantastic role as Hollywood producer John Peters. It just absolutely nutcase.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolute friggin' nutcase. It was just, you know what, I would encourage you to see it, but it's a great one to see at home when you can pause and take breaks, because it is just, it just seems too, I was glancing at my watch from time to time, but Todd did not fall asleep.
Congratulations, Charlie.
Yeah,
this one came out in 2021 to get Oscar consideration. That's why the movie is still in theaters, because they want people to watch it to get buzz for the Oscars. Yeah.
And Patrick, just to let you know, a running joke on the show is that I take a 10-minute power nap in every movie that I see in the theater. I managed to do it during the Batman and still didn't miss a beat.
Oh, interesting. I haven't seen it yet. I heard good things about it. No,
it's good. It's good. It's long, but it earns it. I would say kind of like I think Endgame earned being so long. You know, but anyway. So so that's it for me. So first movie we've seen in a while, and we're talking about we'll either suspend the movie. It's just hard to get to the movie, so we may dump it for a while, but it'll be back for the summer because I know we'll be going to see stuff.
Very cool.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for your inputs, and please check out all the things we talked about. But next, we're going to go down to a land where the mutants reign, and that's the Thunderdome.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, we are blessed to have someone that knows a little something about the toy industry, something that we've all enjoyed. I own collectibles. Charlie's own collectibles. We all bought them as young kids. The market has changed to a mixture of like very simple toys to very ridiculously, high-end collectors things, which is fantastic. But with that, and licenses and things like that, a lot has changed. So it's perfect to have Patrick on to talk about kind of like his experience in the toy industry. I come from a food, consumer packaged goods company, as they call it, where we make food a little bit different than something where you deal with licenses. You go on store shelves, they sit there, all those things. You got to fight for space, shelf space, and all those things. Get marketing for them and everything. And obviously, the long lead to do something like this and all the hurdles is a really interesting aspect. And obviously, there's a lot of people that they think they know how things go, and obviously they always add their 2 cents. But it's really interesting to just hear kind of like more of the specifics. So, Patrick, really quickly, first of all, how did you join Hasbro? I mean, did you just like say, "Hey, I like your toys, please accept me"?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's funny to hear you talk about kind of the what it's like at a CPG company and the licensing aspect. My first kind of professional exposure to Hasbro was actually at General Mills. My first role there was in licensed fruit snacks. So, licensed and not licensed. So we had Shark Bites. Everyone knows Shark Bites from their childhood. So that was one of my products, but also managed our licensed products. So, launched a Skylanders SKU, a Minion SKU, but then we also had Transformers and My Little Pony. And so when I was at General Mills, I worked with the licensing folks from Hasbro. And so that was my first exposure to them and got to know them a little bit. And then now know them a little more from working at Hasbro. But loved the toys growing up. Obviously, everyone knows the Hasbro brands. And so got to a point while I was at General Mills, and it wasn't you at all, Todd. If I could figure out a way to keep working with you and at Hasbro, the logistics are, I'm sure, very fascinating, as you mentioned, the long lead times. But no, got to a point. I had been out on the East Coast for a while before I came to General Mills and really wanted to get back to the East Coast or one of the coasts. I went to grad school out in California, so did a job search. Came down to I was actually deciding between Hasbro and also Mattel out in California. Pretty sure I made the right choice. But yeah, no, it was funny. I was talking to them originally. They had posted, and I just wanted to get into the company. They had posted a role for preschool gaming, which I'm sure would have been amazing. It went to someone inside the company, and they said, that role's gone, unfortunately. Would you have any interest in this brand called Star Wars? And I was like, no, forget about the other role. Come on. Yeah. So I'm sure in my head, navigating my way over to Star Wars, in the entire company, Star Wars is my favorite brand, obviously. That was in the back of my head, but the fact that it happened so quickly was amazing. And yeah, it was just a dream job. And it's funny, I've been at Hasbro for 7 years. Todd, as you know, at General Mills, in marketing especially. We rotate every year or 2 years or whatever. And so I never thought I'd stay on that long, but it's, I found the best brand in the company and have been able to add Indiana Jones recently. And so I know it's amazing. Yeah. So it's never thought it'd be 7 years, but here we are, and it's been great.
So to build on that, I mean, everyone knows Star Wars, but Indiana Jones is a different beast in itself because essentially it's been out of people's views. There hasn't been as much side projects and things as like Star Wars, where they keep it alive through different launches, different marketing things. But with Indiana Jones, we are here, the next movies we know is coming out. We know there's a video game coming out. But beyond that, I mean, obviously, you probably can't speak to much of what your plans are because they're not revealed. But I mean, was that a scenario where they're like, yeah, we want to, bring this back to life and get in front of people to make sure people are familiar with the brand and build excitement around it?
Yeah, no, you're right. I can't say much. At this point, I think all we've revealed is just the fact that there will be a partnership. I think that went out a couple months ago. But I mean, it's definitely been on my radar. As mentioned, we have we have this relationship with Lucasfilm. Obviously, Star Wars is an amazing brand from Lucasfilm, but they have more, and so it's always been in the back of my head. And we know that this movie's coming. And so, yeah, when there was an opportunity for a partnership, it just seemed like a great fit, a natural fit, and we worked through it. And we're excited to see what that movie looks like. I'm sure it's going to be amazing, and excited to see the line we bring out and what people think about it.
I think one thing Charlie will probably advocate for, and I'm speaking for him, but I'm sure he'll say something about it. He loves Indiana Jones, and one of the things he's always wanted to get is like kind of compendiums of the old Indiana Jones Marvel comics.
Right, because I've got the old yellowed copy. I managed to get the whole series, but I grew up reading that from age 6. It was one of my comics history. Is my first ever comic was from the pharmacy in my hometown of Grosse Pointe, Michigan, was Star Wars number 60. Golroth Never Forgets. I have a frame copy in my house. Yeah.
Is that the one where I've never read it? I should get it and read it. Is that the one where Han Solo meets Indiana Jones, or do you have that one?
No, I'm aware of it, but that was from the early 2000s. No, this was from the old Marvel run that ran from 1977 to 1986. But it was, as a young kid, I picked it up, and I didn't pick up a superhero comic until I was 10. Wow. So between ages 6 and 10, I was Star Wars, Indy, G.I. Joe. And
all those 80s brands,
and really nothing from DC, and that was before I ever discovered Star Trek either. So licensed comic properties was my introduction to comics in general. So I know and love and sometimes hate licensing for that reason.
So a favor to Charlie, Patrick, if you want to give them a hint, say, hey, Hiss, I know you know me. Can you get those comics back in with Marvel, please? Yeah, you appreciate that.
I'll do what I can. I'll put in a plug.
Winkaroonie, you got it.
Yeah. Well, plus if you've probably never read them either, so that'd be an opportunity to bring those stories back.
And it's interesting because I mentioned I read a lot of the books. There was also a kids book series about Indiana Jones.
There was a Choose Your Own Adventure series, if that's what you're thinking of.
No, that
was phenomenal.
There was a separate book series. I remember he meets Sala as like a young boy. He's in Egypt. Yeah. I remember thinking between that and the show, and then there's that like 8 or 9 book series from like the mid-20s that basically brings you from college up until the 30s. Like most of his life is pretty well documented.
Right. What he had for lunch on, Thursday, January 9th of, 1928.
There's not many TV shows about a 6-year-old boy. So Todd, when you go through and watch the show, I definitely have a preference for the 17-year-old Indy in World War I versus the 6-year-old Indy.
He's Sean Patrick Scott versus that, basically the kid with the bowl cut, the mop head kid. Yeah.
So Indiana Jones alone? I don't want that. No.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Jones alone.
Yeah. I mean, he's like 6 or 7. The conceit is that his father, obviously Dr. Henry Jones Sr., has gotten a lecturing tour around the world. And so, that's where and the purpose of the show was to kind of teach kids about history. So I love it. There are points where it gets a little contrived because every episode he meets a new historical figure. But I may have mentioned this, like I was a history major in college, and it was because of that show, like all of my research papers were on characters from that show, whether it was Lawrence of Arabia or Albert Schweitzer or Charles de Gaulle or whatever. So thank you, George Lucas, for my
Todd. It was akin to that show that kind of one and done one season of that show Voyagers from the early 80s with Mino Palouse, who was the brother of Punky Brewster, and John Eric Hexum, a guy who tragically shot himself in the head with a blank pistol and died on the set of his next show. But I loved that show, have watched it a bunch of times, and am actually considering watching it again for a Patreon segment for our show a little bit later on this year, because I would love to talk about it. But anyway.
Well, that's very exciting, Charlie. I'm sure Voyagers, the rights will come up for that, and Hasbro will acquire them now that you mentioned it.
I do. I need a 2-pack of the characters.
We'll see what goes with there. Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously now Patrick has told you the secret. Have a degree in history, and that's then how you get this job.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's all you need. So with that, Patrick, just an idea of folks, behind the scenes, like, what's it like to develop a project? I know you and I worked on projects together, launching them. Less sexy is making a biscuit or something like that. Very, very common things, But in regards to like a toy, so say I know a lot of the secrets are out there, so you can't reveal things early. But what's the process? Does an idea come to you from the license holder, or do you create all the ideas and then pitch them to the license holder? Is a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, so I think it's all of the above, and kind of without getting into the details. Obviously, on the Hasbro side, like I'm marketing, so just like at General Mills, we kind of do the marketing. We also work with the entire team, but really at Hasbro, the designers and the engineers are they are amazing partners. They're so creative and brilliant and insightful, and they when I interviewed for the job, I was like I'm I don't know 70 or 80% on the fan scale, like. I know my stuff. I know, kind of like I said, the publishing and the characters, and had the toys when I was a kid, but I'm not like they're all the way there. They're 100%. They know everything. So they're great to work with. Obviously, Lucasfilm is amazing to work with. And so it really comes from both directions. So, and I would say it's kind of split, whether it's a classic product or new entertainment. So something classic that we're doing, obviously we've got, Black Series Vintage Collection. A great idea is, I mentioned before we started taping, HasLab, right? We did Jabba's Sail Barge a few years ago, the Razor Crest right over there. So Jabba's Sail Barge, for example, like that was an idea that my boss, Joe at Hasbro had, because it was a classic property, right? It was a way to get that out. So we brought that to Lucasfilm. They certainly have great ideas as well. Obviously, when it's related to new entertainment, like we sometimes know that, sometimes don't. So it's very collaborative. In terms of, an idea, it depends on whether it's, it can be high level for a new segment. Right, like Black Series launched in 2013. And I wasn't around at that point. I think in 2013, I wasn't quite on CNF yet with you, Todd. I think at that point I was still doing cookies in Pillsbury. So, but yeah, I don't know what went into that. But basically, kind of, obviously a huge business for us now. That idea came from somewhere, got alignment, kind of developed it and moved on. It can be anywhere from a high level thing like that or HasLab to, character suggestions for our existing lines. Which are a little more tactical, but no less important. So yeah, we get the ideas from one place to the other. We talk about them, align, and then put them into process. And there's a whole development process. Our project managers are another great, amazing, invaluable part of the team, and they kind of track all of that and keep us moving.
So with that, did much change when Disney acquired Star Wars? I mean, did you see like a different approach? Because I know, with Disney being such a huge entity, I mean, there's probably more layers there, but I mean, did that change anything?
So I don't know. They acquired Lucasfilm in 2012. And it's funny, I do remember it being at General Mills because I was on our licensed fruit snacks at the time.
That's right.
And our inbound or outbound, I forget, but our licensing team at General Mills, inbound licensing, they were super excited and obviously smartly so. And so we were talking about that when I was at General Mills. So I'm not sure. That being said, obviously we work with folks at Disney as well, and I say this all the time, like Disney, they're the best storytellers in the world, and like Lucasfilm, brands like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, they're the best, in my opinion, best brands in the world. So they're great to work with as well. So we work closely with both Disney and Lucasfilm.
Wow, it's hard to believe it's been almost 10 years.
I know,
since
right?
that relationship. I almost forgot. I'm like, it just feels like yesterday. But when you're 46 years old, everything feels like yesterday. Just 5 years ago. Right. No, Todd, was 25 years ago. Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, very cool. You know, since you've been involved, do you have like a favorite project you worked on?
Good question. I mean, certainly the barge. I'll say two. So the barge is an easy answer, just because it was so emotional, and you know, like I mentioned, I backed it. My barge is in the office. My Razor Crest is here. It was, you know, it was emotional for a lot of different reasons, right? It was like a new platform for Hasbro, the HasLab platform, that has since, you know, we've done a lot of things through that platform, which has been amazing. It was also just that item itself. I remember it was 2018. Yeah, it was 2018 New York Toy Fair. I remember I actually had jury duty a couple weeks prior and tried to get out of it because I was like, we have this huge thing launching, and the judge is not sympathetic to you know, $500 collectible toy. But I made my best effort. But yeah, it was this huge deal. It just meant so much to the fan community. Like that was and we've done others. You know, we're gonna do more in the future, and we've talked about them. But that Jabba's sail barge was like the you know, I say the grail. Obviously, we have Indiana Jones coming, but it was like the grail that Star Wars Vintage Collection fans had wanted for so long. And so we wanted it to happen, both for us. I wanted my barge, for the platform, for the fan community. And I don't know if either of you guys kind of followed that or whatnot, but it was
very closely, and it was hotly debated by Todd and I will tell you, because
we were like, is it going to make it? Is it going to make it? I don't think it's going to make it. I'm like, I bet you it'll make it.
I was not a believer, and Todd was, and we followed HasLab very closely since then, and that you guys have had some great victories, and there were some that were not so much, but that's show business, right? You're going to
Charlie always taunts me about the Cookie Monster one. I'm like, I'm like, that's an odd one. It was an odd one. I'm like, you know, and obviously it didn't get funded, but it's still interesting that going beyond Star Wars was an interesting pivot.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Rancor was one that was very hotly debated all across the community. Certainly a lot on this show. And again, you that's business. You have to try. You always have to try, and you know, sometimes it's going to fall flat. It happens, and you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and on you go. So that's just living, baby. That's the way it works.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was on paternity leave with my first child when the Cookie Monster and I think the Unicron for Transformers, I think they both launched at the same time. I was like, all right, we'll see how those go. But yeah, no, the barge, as you guys know, it was our first one, right? So we didn't have any sense of like what we should expect. We were all very excited on the first day. Like, we did way more on the first day, again, you know, launching at New York Toy Fair than we thought we would. But then it kind of slowed down a little bit, which all campaigns do, but we just didn't know at the time. And so, you know, obviously we had some things in the works. We had some plans to do things like the Yak Face. But yeah, I remember when and it's funny, you watch the numbers, right? And like, as it gets closer to that goal, it starts speeding up and speeding up and speeding up. So I remember being in the office, I'm pretty sure it was on a Friday. I stayed late because we all did, to kind of see how it would go. And yeah, when it funded, it was interesting. It was a singular moment. Like the entire, like everywhere I could hear in the building, like kind of erupted with cheers and joy, and getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But yeah, it was amazing. So very emotional journey. So that's one. And then I'll just quickly say the other one is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Again, I mentioned, loved Heir to the Empire. He's one of the villains in Heir to the Empire. Comes into Star Wars Rebels. And so we did a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. I think it was 2017 is when we did that one. Yeah. So love that for several reasons. One, obviously, it's a great set. It's got Thrawn and kind of all of his artifacts. So I love that one. I have that in the office as well. Like I said, I've always loved Thrawn. The one thing I really loved about it is and I guess I can say this about Indy, there's a holy grail in it, because it's an Easter egg. I'm sure you guys know this in Rebels, that one of his artifacts is, you know, it's an Easter egg. It's the Holy Grail from Last Crusade. So I remember seeing that concept board with the designer being like, that looks a lot like the Holy Grail. He's like, fun fact, it is. So I like that one for a lot of different reasons.
Didn't that also show up in the Han Solo film, and maybe I'm thinking of the Chechapoyan Idol instead, in Paul Bettany's characters, his little menagerie? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
there was, it was one of those two. It'd be like, because he had a smattering of art, and I'm drawing a blank. Dryden Voss was the name of the character. He was the big time mob boss that employed Kira and Han Solo and Woody Harrelson's character were all involved with. He had a lot of those little things scattered around. One of them was either the Golden Idol, the Chacha Point fertility idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark, or it was the Holy Grail. I feel like it was the fertility idol, but
I think it was,
yeah. I love the Easter egg, and don't get Todd started. Todd hates fan service, but for the rest of us who enjoy it, it's fun to see it.
Yeah, so
that one's fun though. That one's kind of like a crossover, just kind of fun. Yeah, it's just interesting.
It existed he got it in that world of the comic where Han Solo met Indiana Jones, got the Grail, brought it back. Somehow Thrawn got it. It all ties together.
Awesome. I love crossovers. That's really, really cool. And it's funny because I know, Patrick, you don't represent the Transformers side of the company, but I am a huge Transformers fan. So I truly appreciate all the weird crossovers they are doing currently with like all the classic vehicles with that. I even got the really dumb one, but I still think it's great, of Dracula. Like he turns to a vampire back. Makes no sense at all. Is a robot really going to suck someone's blood? Maybe it's like he probably sucks oil or gas out of them.
I want to suck your oil. What?
But I love those. But you know, and another question I have is, because of where you work and how you work and who you work with, any brushes with fame or like people you might have worked with because of the licenses?
Well, if my boss is listening, certainly interacting with him on a daily basis.
Ouch! Get the boots out.
A few different things. I think actually it's funny, not to go back to General Mills again. My biggest brush with fame, I think, was actually at General Mills. Again, I mentioned I was on that licensed business. I got to fly out to LA for the opening of I think it was the Despicable Me 2 movie. So a friend and I walked the yellow carpet. Got to see Steve Carell, have our photos taken with Pharrell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Who else? Ken Jeong, you mentioned. He was out there as well, so have those pictures somewhere. But yeah, no, a lot of similar things at Hasbro. So I got to interview a couple years ago for PulseCon, Ashley Eckstein and Dee Bradley Baker, who are voices.
They're great.
Yeah, that was amazing and so nice. It was interesting. So that was in 2020. Clone Wars Season 7 had wrapped in 2020, but obviously the pandemic hit. So one of the things they mentioned is that their whole press tour had been essentially canceled because of COVID. So this was one of their first opportunities to talk about the show and kind of share their thoughts on how it ended. So that was a really special opportunity. There may be more in the future. COVID has shut a lot of it down. And as mentioned, I've been on the team 7 years, have kind of progressed. My then boss, when they were shooting movies, used to fly out to the sets, meet J.J. Abrams, the directors. Theoretically, I'd be doing some of that if it weren't for COVID, but I look forward to when COVID's over and that can come into play again.
Perfect. Yeah, and it's been kind of quiet in the Star Wars front. So in regards to new things coming, we've got a big one coming. So I would be amiss to say, are you excited about Obi-Wan?
I think either way, I would have to say yes. But no, I mean, the answer is absolutely yes. I'm sure you guys saw the trailer drop. I think it was 2 weeks ago, 1 or 2 weeks ago. I thought it looked amazing. Like as I mentioned, and we say this publicly, like we know about some things in advance. We don't know about others. This is an area where we've known about some of those things in advance, which is great. And so just seeing the trailer and seeing that all come to life has been amazing. And so, May 25th, I think it is when it drops. So definitely going to be ready. It's going to be exciting.
May the 25th be with you. Oh, wait.
That is, if I'm not mistaken, the 45th anniversary of the release of A New Hope.
New Hope, I think so, yeah. Very well timed. So going back to, obviously, that planet should be good.
Right. Todd's favorite Star Wars planet. Don't get him started.
we visited there a few times, haven't we?
It's literally been beaten like a rug against the Tatooine sand.
Yeah, I forget. I should know the exact quote of like, it's, if there's a center to the universe, it's the planet furthest from that. But if you were an outsider watching the Star Wars trilogy, you would think Tatooine was like the center of the universe.
It is the arrow. You are here.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you lost something? It's probably on Tatooine.
It is. Look for the sand.
Yeah, absolutely. And May the 4th is coming up. We've got, Star Wars celebrations. So I'm assuming you will probably be a very, very busy man in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I mean it's always busy, but you're right. May the 4th is always fun. Star Wars Celebration. We'll see kind of what presents we have there. But yeah, with or Obi-Wan coming up, and then it's going to be a great year beyond that. So yeah, it's been good. You mentioned it's been quiet. Obviously, Book of Boba Fett just ended about a month ago.
That's right.
But a month seems like an eternity. But yeah, lots of good things coming down.
Which is wild when we used to wait 2-3 years for, the next saga film. But now it's
a
like
different world.
You're like, "Wah, Disney Plus, give me something now, damn it."
Yep. I know, yeah. We've gone from, I think, 3 years every time, right? 77,
Yes.
80, 83, and then
Yep,
99,
yep.
2002, 2005. 10 years, and then a movie every year. But you're right. Yeah, a month feels like an eternity now in this new world. So I wouldn't trade it for anything.
No doubt.
Very, very cool. Charlie, any last questions?
No, my goodness. Yeah, Patrick, I admire what I am sure is your wherewithal in the face of what can be a very somewhat toxic community when it comes to Star Wars figure collectors. I will admit, and getting to know you, I think you're a spectacular guy. I think you really get the short shrift because you're a representative of a brand, you're an employee, and people make it sound like you're the one out there who's ruining their childhood because of this thing and that thing and the stupid figure. And and it's funny, Todd has always fought the fight for you. Not that I was ever attacking you, but I'm like, they're really ripping this guy up. And I'm like, he's just a guy doing a job. And getting to know you and finding out that you're a fellow indie-phile.
Oh, yeah.
I dig it. So I admire what you do. It sucks to be on the brunt of a community. I mean, the Star Trek community has plenty of jerks too, as I've already talked about in this episode. But the Star Wars people, it can be a mixed bag. So I admire your fortitude, and I've really enjoyed talking to you. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for Eagle Eyes already picking out some of the stuff in my menagerie. I certainly would consider a few other helmets too, because helmets are a fun collectible. I do also have a Black Series Heritage blue lightsaber as well that I've used with one of my cosplays. So awesome. we were just rearranging some of our cosplay stuff yesterday, but that one stayed out. I love those. I love that one. Very nice. That's my baby.
Yeah, no, you're too kind. I've enjoyed this as well. I wouldn't trade it for the world, right? Like, and the majority of the fans out there are amazing, wonderful. They're all passionate, and we wouldn't trade that for anything. I will say again, hopefully at some point in the future we're able to return to conventions. I love going to conventions. Like, Star Wars fans are the nicest people out there when you meet them. In person, so it's great. It's great chatting with people at those conventions, getting to know their stories, getting to know their passions, learning a little more about what they want. So. It is. I think getting back, as a whole world, getting back to being in person eventually will be, I think, just amazing for all of us. So
it is 2 years of pent up frustration and desire. Yeah. Even working, because I work toy shows, and we also do exhibiting as part of the Star Trek fan club that my wife and I run. We exhibit statewide, and just the pent up demand to be out there and just to talk and to enjoy and share fandom. It's overwhelming. Yeah. People just really want to be free. They want to be free again. They want to be free again to enjoy their stuff. So it's great, even at my level, to just be a part of it. So I enjoy going to my first big Star Trek convention in Chicago in a couple of weeks here, which is a return to that. So that should be pretty spectacular. So it's a good time. Life is returning. And I dig it.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's wonderful, Patrick. Obviously, you're flexing different muscles. Social media with this type of thing is far different than what it was with General Mills. But obviously, I think it's an exciting place to be where you're at, and I think this has been really fun reconnecting. Loving hearing the stories is phenomenal, and obviously, with that, we will say thank you. And before we leave, we always say if anyone wants to share where they can be reached, is there anything you would like to share, or where people can check out Star Wars projects that you're working on?
Yeah, no, Hasbro Pulse is the place to check out. So that is Hasbro's. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it.
Oh yeah,
that is the source of all information, product, exclusive product. So if folks are interested in learning more, that's where they should go.
For that discount code, it's Patrick. Hasbro's Pulse.
Yeah, Patrick promised me a discount.
2022. Yeah, exactly.
Patrick's promise.
Exactly. Patrick Sunshine.
The Patrick promise. Very good.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, Charlie, with that, take us out.
And away we go, friends. Thank you, as always, for joining us. You can find me over on the Twitter at the C3, spell it out. As mentioned, the wife and I also run the Michigan chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club, USS Grand Petoskey. Find us online and at all those various socials. I also try to run our Secret Friends Unite Facebook community when I can, but you'll also find us over on Twitter at Secret Friends U, talking about geek stuff and plugging away and having a good time. That's me.
Excellent. You can find me at Toxtra if you want a video game. I'm Spartyon1998 on PSN, and on Xbox and Nintendo Switch, I'm Spartyon98. Always having a good time. And join us at secretfriendsunite.com for all the stuff there, including all of our podcast and also our YouTube content.
Fiddly-dee, fiddly-doo. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In the truck.
May the 25th be with you.
We'll get it started.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite.